Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we'll be playing the fourth part of Trish's Autobiography RPG, Super Lesbian Animal RPG. And we'll be stopping after we get to Zinnia's place, but before we go berry picking. But before we get to all of that, how was everyone's week?
I'm staring at you, Bernard. You go first.
I had a lovely conversation with former RPG Book Club host Maddie Grace Webben earlier today. So that was nice. Oh, Sam, your camera came on.
Yeah, I just realized you can do that in the stages now. You used to not be able to.
Ah, that's wild. I'm not turning mine on.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's enough of that.
So that was nice. Other than that, my week was not great. Not in interesting ways.
Yeah. Just a normal amount of not great.
I mean, an extreme amount of not great, but nothing interesting.
Just kind of the dull mundanity of life under capitalism.
Yes. It's like it's like the worst kind of movie where it's just fucking boring and terrible and you don't want to keep watching it, but there's nothing like really interesting where you can say that is such a. It's not like the Super Mario Brothers movie 1993 where it's super interesting and you can like be like, what the fuck happened here? It's just like, oh my god.
Oh, it's just like a French film.
I was gonna say after last season, but yes, French film was too. On my end, my week has been pretty boring, but another podcast out there, my sister made me view it, just start up their Patreon, and so I'm finally on their Discord server, and shout out to those two because they're great. One of the hosts is also a director on Star Trek Lower Decks, which also, by the way, Star Trek Lower Decks is back, and God, it's such a good first episode.
Oh, I've
heard that show is fantastic.
I haven't watched the new season yet. I didn't realize it was back.
It's back. There's 2 episodes out. All I will tell you is the first of those 2 episodes is Voyager themed, and nice. It was very funny.
God.
It was very good. Yeah, Voyager's good. Not Voyager. Voyager's. I haven't seen Voyager. I can't say if Voyager's good or not. I've heard generally the general answer is no. But I have been watching Lower Decks. Lower Decks is excellent. But yeah, that's basically been the notable things of my week.
My favorite thing about Voyager is most people say it's not good, but no one can decide on what the not good part is.
I love things like that.
So it's like Rare, the video game developer Rare. Everyone agrees they've made some masterpieces. Nobody agrees what the masterpieces are.
Yes.
Yes. We all should know it's Donkey Kong 64, but some people disagree for some reason.
I might have to disagree.
We know where my allegiances lie.
Yes.
But
I'm curious, honestly.
I think Banjo-Tooie is fantastic.
Oh, I do too. Banjo-Tooie's great.
I hate Banjo-Tooie.
Most people, if they give any concessions, it's to Banjo-Kazooie, and they think that Banjo-Tooie is hot garbage. And meanwhile,
now, see, I've never heard anyone else but me have that.
I know.
I might have just dominated your ideas so much. I might have just insinuated myself into your opinions so much that you think that's a common concept.
I'm gonna say, as a fellow Banjo-Tooie liker, I have seen quite a few people diss the hell out of Banjo-Tooie, and like I understand their complaints. It's basically a different genre of game than Banjo-Kazooie, but I still like it. It's good.
Yeah. But Voyager. So
we all know Rare's masterpiece is Conker's Bad Fur Day.
No,
that's very true. Voyager, there's a Medium article or 3 of this guy that's like, hey, so you want to watch Star Trek and get caught up, but it's Star Trek is famously episodic, so like you could just skip the bad ones. Here's my playlist of the all the good episodes. You could watch all the good ones, and then if you love every single one of these, surprise, you have another half of the show left. And so here's how you can
I love those. Those are
get the
good.
gist of Next Gen and Deep Space Nine using these lists. Then for the Voyager one, he was like, I don't know how to do this, so I looked up other people's lists and I compiled a list, and it got me nowhere because everyone else's list, no one, like, he got like 6 lists. There was no episode that was on all 6 lists, and there was no episode that was on 0 lists. Every single episode, at least one person out of this incredibly small sample size of 5 say that it's a good episode or it's a bad episode.
That's still absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited to watch Voyager someday and have opinions on it.
Same.
mm-hmm. Me too.
I like having opinions.
My huge Star Trek rewatch. I am almost done with season 2 of the original series, and then I have season 3 and the animated series and all of the movies and all of Next Gen.
Oh god,
and
you're
all
watching
of,
the animated
Deep Space
series.
Nine, and then
How-
You're gonna watch Spock 2?
Yes.
Sequel to Spock?
I am still on season 1 of the original series. Is season 2 as good as season 1?
Season 2 is fantastic.
Okay. I wonder if
absolutely
season
loved
3
it.
is where it gets its reputation for being a little uneven, because season 1 is just all bangers except for 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think there's been like 3 or 4 that are just like, this was an episode of Star Trek, but like I'm plugged in for that, so I didn't think it was bad. It just was not amazing like the first season was, but maybe season 3 is where it goes off the rails.
We'll see.
Who can say?
Yeah, tune in here.
I mean,
we have
people who have watched the whole series can say, but
Yes.
we don't have any here.
We don't, so it's literally unknowable. But speaking of television shows, Wheel of Time came back on Thursday, and I have watched all of the episodes, or last Thursday, and I've watched those, but I haven't watched the one from yesterday yet. And it's really good. We spoke it into existence talking last week about One Piece and how if something is too big and unwieldy, you should just adapt it instead of porting it. And as long as the characters are there, everything will work out. And they're kind of taking like 5 entire books and making it happen in 8 episodes in a way that's like really good. And I really like it, and it all makes sense, and it's fantastic. And I know for a fact that fanboys on the internet are going to hate it for not just being a port of the story, but
And they can die mad.
The crap out of it. They can die mad. I just hope that Amazon pays for all 8 seasons so that this pays off, because
Jeff Bezos has the money. He should do it. He should actually do
should
the
do it
one
for
good
me.
thing he can do with his money.
And streaming services notoriously do not cancel everything way
At 2
before its
seasons.
time.
Mhm.
So,
I'm
I'm so mad at.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just mad in general. I don't have a specific show to
Oh.
bring up as an example, but they
I was gonna
cancel
bring up
everything.
a counter example, which is I just recently started, and after this podcast recording, I'm going to be doing a date where we're going to be watching more of She-Ra, because I discovered I have a partner who has not seen She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, so we've been
Nice.
watching that, and that is a show that I am amazed that they got to finish the series, and it doesn't, unlike certain other animated series, which I also love, it doesn't
Mhm.
feel rushed into its ending. Like, it got the time it needed, and it's
Mhm.
also just so fucking fantastic. It is rare to find a piece of media that speaks to you so much that you're like, if someone was like, well, what didn't you like what didn't work, you'd be like, I got nothing. I genuinely got nothing. And that's basically how I am with She-Ra. I'm like, are there flaws? I'm sure, I just can't spot them.
Yeah, I need to finish She-Ra. I finished like the first season of it back when it came out, and
First season's
none
so good.
since then.
The rest are also good.
I had the benefit of having a young daughter when She-Ra came out, and I was like, this will be amazing. she can watch a new Magical Girl show that I'm really interested in, and she watched a couple episodes and was like, this is boring. So I've watched Bluey 900 times through, but I haven't finished She-Ra yet.
Well,
Not
I mean,
that I'm
Bluey's pretty
complaining.
good.
Bluey is fantastic.
First time I saw Bluey, I was sitting in a waiting room because I don't have kids. I was sitting in a waiting room, and my chair was like across from the kids section of the waiting room where they have like those weird balls on wires and shit.
Mhm.
And there was a TV playing Bluey, so I just watched Bluey, and I was like, "This show's pretty good."
It's pretty great.
My time watching Bluey was I went to go hang out with my ex, who I'm still very close with. It's like, so what have you been doing since we broke up and moved out of the place we were sharing? And it was like, watching Bluey. Well, let me put on an episode. And I was like, this is good.
It's surprisingly fantastic.
It is.
Speaking of things that are fantastic, so we probably are 2 or 3 episodes out from the end. So I'm going to announce my games that are coming up. So the theme of the next block is a transitionary period between auto by RPGs and our next set of things, which are games off of our backlog that we haven't beaten yet. And so these are both games in series that are very much auto by RPG series that I actually haven't gotten around to playing whatsoever yet. And that is Wild Arms V, the Veeth Vanguard, and Star Ocean 4, The Last Hope, International Edition, 4K 4K HD.
Isn't it actually called like 4K and Full HD remaster?
Something like that, yeah. But
yeah, Star Ocean, The Last Hope, 4K and Full HD remaster on Steam. Just so you know, you have both options.
Nice. But yeah, so the reason that they're awesome is Wild Arms 4 was like laughably bad. So they got the heat on them for Wild Arms 3. It was like fantastic. It was one of the first PS2 full-on JRPGs. Right place, right time. Everybody was looking forward to it. Wild Arms 4 came out and it was bad and unfinished. So then everybody stopped paying attention to the Wild Arms franchise. So then for the 5th one, they accidentally made a masterpiece that nobody had ever played. And it's got Tim Rogers' favorite JRPG battle system of all time. And its plot is written by a Japanese novelist. So there's very little like, we have to go out and get the MacGuffin, but just like we're on our way to this thing and we're having conversations that normal people would have, and we're going to have them at random intervals throughout this dungeon because we're walking through the dungeon because it's in our way, sort of thing. And it's fantastic, and the music is wonderful. And I hope we pick this one, but if we don't, we'll be playing Star Ocean 4, which is the first full HD. I guess it was 720p since the remaster is full HD, but it was the full.
And also,
first...
nothing was actually full HD in that era.
Yeah, on the PS3 and 360, not at all.
Nothing actually got there. Everything was 720p dynamic resolution, targeting 720p with a dynamic frame rate targeting 30 frames per second. It was rough.
It was very rough. So definitely play the Steam or PS4 or 5 version. But so that one is really weird because the reason I never played it is light spoilers for the third one. The ending of the third one kind of means there can be no more Star Ocean games, and there's been 3 of them since then. And it's kind of very... It's very big shoes to fill to follow the ending of Star Ocean 3, especially because Star Ocean 3 was like super duper popular for the series, and they committed to the bit and did it anyways. And most people who actually have gone and played through it, like the characters are the favorite thing about it. It has like the best party character cast out of the whole series. But yeah, Star Ocean is just JRPG Star Trek, and Star Trek is already the most JRPG of all television shows. So it's kind of a match made in heaven, and it's great. If we end up playing that one, play it with the Japanese dub, because the English dub is bad, and I'm not usually a person that says that the English dub is bad. But
You're not usually a person that says things are bad.
I'm usually not. No. If once you get like a smidge into the game, you could probably switch back, but there's a like side character early on who has the absolute worst voice I've ever heard on the English dub.
Oh no.
So recommend the Japanese one if that's what you're into.
I will say I've not played either a Star Ocean game or a Wild Hearts game, so whichever wins this poll will be the first of these franchises I play first. So choose wisely, listeners.
If we end up playing Star Ocean, congratulations, you have mostly an uphill journey through the rest of Star Ocean. If we play Wild Arms, you have a mostly downhill journey through Wild Arms. Wild Arms 1 and 3
so you're
are
saying
amazing.
You're cursing me.
Yes.
You're cursing me either way.
Yes. 1 and 3 of Wild Arms are really, really good. 2 is my favorite one, but its font and localization are really, really bad. And then I've already mentioned how 4 is a train wreck. So, but XF is a hex-based tactics, which is awesome. There should be more of those. Either way, that's enough talking about that. So the poll will be up soon-ish, probably by the time this is edited. It depends on if I remember to do it tomorrow. But yeah, let's, instead of talking about my favorite games, let's talk about Trish's favorite games right after this brief musical interlude.
All right, so last time we went through and saved people throughout the town of Green Ridge turned Glitch Ridge, and now it's time to head to Allison's basement, where they find the basement dungeon is still intact despite the city scrambling. Heading back into the cave area, they run into Faith. She and Jody immediately spend an improper amount of time hugging, after which we get down to brass tacks. Faith is not exactly pleased with Claire having made a secret base under the town, especially one that runs so close to the underground portion of the tower, but that lecture can wait until after they save the town. Apparently, Javis used the distraction caused by scrambling Greenridge and sending in his monsters to get into the tower to turn off the elevators. She's unsure why the tower is being targeted, but the party informs her of what Javis had said before, using the tower to summon Queen Verena. Faith explains that the tower is an ancient mana conduit, but no one's ever really figured out how to get much magic out of it, because so much of it dissipates whenever it builds up. Still, Javis is clearly capable of a lot, so him using that magic for summoning is not outside the realm of possibility. Plus, if Verena is as powerful as they think she may be, then they're going to need all of that mana to summon her. Following Faith, she shows us a secret entrance to get into the tower. This specifically takes us into the Guardian's Vault, a secret part of the building where they store all the powerful things they keep out of the hands of less scrupulous folks. A lot of what's down here is extremely dangerous, but Faith says that since it's an emergency, the party can take anything they find in a normal treasure chest, because that stuff is safe-ish.
I like that the junk is in treasure chests and the cool shit is on shelves.
Or in display
Just
cases.
out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get to Javis and hopefully stop him from summoning his leader. The Guardian's Vault is full of traps and dangerous monsters. Some of the latter are sentries here to protect it from intruders, and some of them are Javis's goons. All of them are bad news. There's also a warp at the start that can take you to the evacuation camp, where you can get a place to heal up and buy items as necessary. It's very useful because this dungeon can get a bit hard at times. Aside from the old-fashioned finding keys and using them to get where you need to go inside of a dungeon crawling kind of stuff, you can head into an optional side path in the dungeon if you find the password in a book to unlock a secret passageway, which is a funny scene in and of itself, which leads to a spot full of incredible loot. Though It also has one of those doors we've been seeing every so often throughout the game, which can't be opened. Or as Claire decides to think of it can't be opened yet. Maybe if they do well with all of this, Faith will let them take whatever's inside. This is an absolutely normal way to think about it. Anyway, you get the weird key, and you can use that to get past the barrier on the third basement floor, where you'll find a familiar polar bear barring your path. In the room beyond her, Javis's boys are keeping Faith handled, while the videotape head man himself works on the summoning. Paula's job is to keep the party from ruining it, and she's obviously taken immense pleasure in the task. She is once again quick to jump to the you don't understand when it comes to her own motivations, probably so she can get right to the fighting. Speaking of fighting, holy crap, Paula is hard. She
Yeah,
hits
she
like a
is.
brick in a sock. And worse than that, partway through the fight, she puts a curse on you, making it so your magic will hurt you every single time you cast a spell. Still, eventually you do beat her, but she doesn't mind, sniping that Allison needed 3 other people to even have a chance at taking her out. Doesn't matter though, Paula's job was just to stall, and she'd already done that perfectly. Turns out, she's right. In the next room, Faith is trying to get past Javis's strange sons to get at him, but it's too late. Faith points out this is a faulty mana conduit, that most of the magic it accrues isn't usable, but Javis doesn't see that as a problem. After all, the conduit has been incomplete for a long time, but now he can return the control panel to its proper place, letting it achieve its full potential. Faith wonders how he could have that missing piece, but Javis says that all will become clear shortly. The party arrives just in time to see the summoning. With the vast magical power properly collected, a portal opens and through it comes Queen Verena. There's a little bit of confusion as she jumps right into the reveal, only to find that Javis didn't lay the proper groundwork. But she explains it anyway. The locals have been worshipping her for 1,000 years, calling her Fortuna, goddess of magic. Struggling to take in all this new information, Faith speaks to her respectfully, asking why she's come back after all this time away, but Verena seems annoyed, calling this groveling. She's been to so many dimensions, so many planets, but none of them have earned her ire the way Reverie has. And it's time for payback. Why does she feel like she needs payback? Well, to start with, there are paladins squatting in her tower. But more importantly, she thinks this world is broken. Ultimately, she has learned to regret giving the mortals this planet magic, believing it's done more harm than good, a mistake she only made because she was young and naive. Melody tries to speak against this, to talk about the good magic does, but Verena makes some good points. Uncanny Valley has been irradiated by magic, and magic is the cause for the various dangerous monsters that roam the islands. But most of all, Faith should know how much magic sucks. After all, she's the one who's in charge of cleaning up all of Claire's disasters. And Claire is the reason Verena came back at all. So enough is enough. She's taking her magic back, and then she's going to reset the entire planet, make it a clean slate to work with. This time she's not going to leave. She's going to stay and make sure everything goes right. Jody's heard enough of this, making it clear that they won't give up their magic to her without a fight. And when Allison tries to pull Jody back on that one, saying maybe it's not a great idea to provoke a fight with a god, Verena expresses her approval. Resistance would only make this more interesting. Javis interrupts, though, pointing out they're well behind schedule. It's going to take time to pull off what Verena wants. She decides to use that time for something fun. The planet has 7 days before she acts on her promise. Reverie is free to send its strongest warriors against her fortress on the highest peak of the Sapphire Islands to try and prove they deserve the magic they've been given. And if they do well enough, she'll make them a part of her empire. Apparently, that comes with excellent benefits. If they fail, then the planet's reset. With the offer made, she teleports herself and her forces away. Once Green Ridge has been properly restored, Faith casts a barrier spell to protect the town from further encroachment, and then takes the Novas to her office to talk. The situation is dire. The literal goddess of magic is their enemy, and there'll be no help from the outside world, not with the phones and internet still down. Jody helpfully asks for some context on Fortuna, since not everyone is religious enough to know the whole story, and Lady Province agrees. Who or what the gods really are is a matter of debate, but as far as all evidence suggests, they've always been a part of Reverie. Once, people believed they created the entire universe, but now they know about the Big Bang and stuff, so contemporary theories suggest they came to the area from some other part of the universe and created the planet themselves. Most of them like to appear on TV these days, but they keep quiet when asked about these juicy details. I do just love the idea of the pantheon of gods on a planet just appearing on TV like it's a normal thing. For most of history, the gods were the only ones with the ability to do magic. It was their exclusive domain. But then Fortuna descended to Reverie and gave the gift of magic to mortals, an act from 1,000 years ago that has forever changed the course of their history. Magic is seeped into every corner of people's lives. It's the foundation on which their society is built, and they have it only thanks to Verena. You can choose to have Melody interrupt, asking if Verena and Fortuna really are the same person, a question that Allison shares, but the others are fairly sure it's true. Clara is left with so many questions. Where has Verena been all this time? Why did she leave? And how did she get to be ruling an empire with someone like Javis by her side? They're missing something. Then the conversation turns to Verena's comment about it being Claire's fault that she returned. Claire tries to deflect, but when they push harder on the issue, she puts a spell book in front of Faith, something she found in the Guardian's collection, borrowed, and after some study, realized was written by Fortuna herself. Most of it's just common spells, things that anyone in a household would know how to do, but it's also where she got the ritual to give Melody and Allison their magic. None of this goes well. Faith is not happy, pointing out that doing something like that to her friends could have been extremely dangerous. Somehow, it got Verena's attention, bringing her back, and this is just one more example in a long line of Claire acting recklessly and causing problems for everyone else. Only this time, the fate of the planet is at stake. Jody tries to redirect the blame to herself, saying that when the guild was formed, she had promised to take responsibility for making sure Claire didn't do anything bad. Ultimately, Faith decides that things are getting too heated and it's getting late. They'll just adjourn for the evening and come back to the matter in the morning. After Aluna, thank you for teaching me this phrase, we cut to Melody on the beach by herself, only to be joined again by Harmony. More than taunting her over failing to save the town, Harmony is there to pick at her relationship with Allison. She says that all Melody's girlfriend has been doing is pretending to support her. After all, how many times has she suggested they both quit? When has she even ever called Melody a paladin? Before Harmony can dig that knife in deeper, Allison shows up to do it herself. It's up to you whether Melody is confident or honest in that first moment, but either way, things quickly spiral out of control. Allison suggests that they should just hang up this whole adventurer thing. The stakes have gotten too high. Melody sees Allison as not believing in her, not seeing her as a paladin, and Allison doesn't help things by calling her a healer when trying to comfort her. This leads to Allison asking why being a paladin matters so much to her now. She keeps pushing, saying that this whole thing was her idea. It hasn't worked out, and it feels like she's just dragging Melody along. And she's only going along with it because she's so nice. But things have gone too far. They can't handle this. Melody tries to rebut these words, only to tear up and fall to her knees. Allison is supposed to be the one who supports her, who always takes her side, and all she's doing is making her feel worse. Allison comes closer, they hug, and she apologizes for raising her voice. It doesn't do much, though. Melody is still sobbing, practically begging her girlfriend for some affirmation, to say she believes in her. But Allison's replies are too half-hearted. They aren't what Melody needs to hear right now. Finally, Melody turns away from her, asking for some space. Allison pushes back at first, before eventually accepting the request, apologizing and saying she loves Melody before leaving. Of course, that doesn't leave Melody alone for long. Harmony comes back to gloat, but Melody doesn't engage. She just keeps crying. And there's no fun in it to just talk with no actual dialogue, so Harmony disappears once more. And we end Act 3 with Melody continuing to have a panic attack on the beach by herself. Act 4 time! The next morning, they get back to strategizing in Faith's office. Or rather, they get back to asking Claire why she keeps doing these reckless things by herself. She has her reasons. Magic is a competitive field, and she needed an edge, especially since she doesn't have the same formal education other witches do. She acted on her own because she always feels like she is on her own. It's quickly becoming a destructive cycle, though. Claire never asks for help, so she does things that blow up in her face. She gets in trouble, and she's left feeling even more like there's no one who's willing to give her a chance and help her. This mindset is clearly born out of whatever upbringing she had, but now she's in a place where she has friends who are willing to help. Sure, Faith is upset over what's happened, but she still wants to be there for her friend. Claire finally admits that she does need help and asks for it, which is great timing because a message just arrived via pneumatic tube, and it's quite the offer of help. Zinnia, Faith's mentor, is willing to see the party about what's happening. Regardless of whether they end up being the ones to fight Verena or not, they could use some assistance with this crisis at hand. They're given a key that will get them past the gate in the mountains towards Zinnia's home, while also letting them know that they can go into Uncanny Valley if they want to. However, that's not required yet, so will not be covered in this recap. Not until next episode. Before they leave, Jody and Faith talk about how little time they got to spend together. To make up for that, Faith gives her a magic locket, one that will allow her to summon Faith for a short period of time, no matter where she goes. Using this, we can now have Jody use Kiss Faith as a skill, which is useful because after that scene on the beach, Melody and Allison won't kiss each other in fights anymore. Which, out of
And
context, is a sad
and
thing.
if you're me, she also can't use Paladin's gift anymore because she doesn't have access to her Paladin powers. She can heal, but she's not a Paladin.
Shit.
Oh, damn. Oh, when I did play it as an Amorous Paladin, I don't remember that being a thing. I have to double check if I still have my Confidence Paladin ones. Anyway,
I still had my woodland paladin ones.
Yeah, I think
I still fuck with nature.
Claire says at one point, brings it up in dialogue. She's like, is everything cool with you, you and Allison? And she's like, no, it's none of your business. She goes, your powers are literally based on the fact that everything is cool with you and Allison. It does matter to me. And she's like,
yeah.
she brushes it off. So yeah, it's just attention to detail, which I think is great. But it makes all of my fights a lot harder because instead of having to get 2 heals before I can give somebody MP back, I have to get 4 heals before I can give the whole party a little bit of MP back, and it's rough. It's been a lot of fun, but I miss having Paladin's gift by a lot.
And
Yeah.
even if you don't lose Paladin's gift, the woodland healing abilities, most of them take star power, and without the kiss, Melody doesn't have a good way to build star power on turn 1.
That's
If
true,
everyone's
yeah.
at full health. If there's no one that needs healing, you can't just use a turn to get star power as Melody anymore.
Yep. Also,
Allison
with
still
the
can because she has Yoink and
yes,
her music.
which is the music's the best way to build star power for her. Let's be honest. But yeah, the kissing mechanically does in fact change how you play the game a little bit, which I think is very fun. Anyway, yeah, once they're out of the tower, Claire apologizes to the party, and Melody speaks up, asking for Jody to take the lead because she needs some space. As you mentioned, Sam, Claire immediately recognizes that, oh shit, they had a fight. But Melody does not want to talk about it and is just trying to force some positivity about the situation. I will say, you can also go do a side quest with Claire and Beverly at this point, but I think that's better saved to go with all the other optional content next week, as incredibly adorable as that side quest is. Heading to Zinnia's place, you first have to go through a cave system that's full of dangerous enemies, like feral little wizards who brew wizard moonshine. There isn't much there in terms of story content, except for a lovely little joke that happens if you find a miner's chest in miner's helmet in a chest. Anyway, you get through there, and you get to a large set of doors set in the mountain. Turns out, Zinnia is a dragon. At first, she's enormous, but she quickly shrinks down to a reasonable size for conversing with others, and invites them back to her home. She's also exceptionally adorable, and in this game, that really means something. Everyone has tea with Zinnia, and it turns out Faith told her all about them. What she hasn't heard about is the current crisis, and after being told about it, she does not take it well. The thing is, Zinnia is old, over 1,000 years old, and she used to know Verena. She confirms that yes, Verena is the goddess of magic. She met Verena shortly after she arrived on the planet, and they got along well. They moved in together, and eventually Zinnia convinced her to help her learn magic. She was the first mortal on the planet to gain access to it. And once she did, word got out that Zinnia could share that gift of the gods with anyone. So they set up a magic school, and Zinnia helped teach there. That's when people started calling Verena a goddess. Jody asks about what could have happened that would make Verena so angry at Reverie, since according to Zinnia, it sounds like things were going wonderfully. All Zinnia will say on the matter is that Verena didn't leave by choice, and the memory of what occurred is too painful for her to dredge up. She can't see Verena herself either. In addition to not being sure how the Queen would react, she just can't fight her. They were too close. She still understands why Verena is bitter, and she thinks it's all her fault. Meeting Verena was the highlight of Zinnia's life, but it only ever caused Verena pain. Now, just because Zinnia can't fight Verena, and the party isn't sure they can either, Zinnia can still offer them some help regardless. As a starting lesson, she asks them to go out and pick some dragonberries for tea. And we'll see how that goes for our heroes next time.
I
Awesome.
wonder if this seemingly menial task granted by
Ancient
an
wizard
old master is actually going to have hidden significance that causes our heroes to learn and grow.
Probably not. Anywho, let's listen to some music and talk about our memorable moments.
Tell me your memorable moments. Share them with me.
This one is technically a cheat because it only gets wrapped up in the part that while you're picking berries. But on your way to Zinnia's, you can find a monster that's guarding a chest, but it's facing the chest and not out the way that it normally is. When you get in, you fight it. It's a pretty hard fight, but you end up defeating it, and then you go to grab the chest, and then the chest is a mimic. So you get into a fight with the mimic, and the mimic is like, you know what? Actually, I was being really harassed by that guy. You took care of him for me. Like, I normally attack people who try to open me, but like, I think we're pretty cool. Actually, in fact, thank you. Here's an item. It's still a regular chest. It just gives you an item. So then later, you can find the mimic 2 more times. I don't remember the middle one, but the last one is when you're out picking berries, and the party gets split, and so you're with Melody at the time, and Melody is going through it because of everything that's that we talked about this week, and the mimic is like, actually, you look like you're having a really hard time, so I'm just gonna, and then it cuts back to the overworld, and you just see the chest just like float off the top of the screen.
Oh god, I think I found that the first time I played, but I didn't find it this time. Oh, it's so good.
I keep missing things in dungeons, even though I'm trying so hard to be thorough.
There's so much in these dungeons.
I did not find that first mimic, and then later in the berry picking part, I did fight a mimic. I just fought it. Or maybe it was another point when I fought a mimic. I did fight a mimic. And
I have fought a
there
mimic
wasn't
as
any
well.
cute dialogue or anything.
Yeah, all 3 mimics that I fought, I'm guessing it's because I saved that first one. Like, me and the mimics are cool now, and so we don't end
That's
up fighting
wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh gosh. I have like a big list, so I'm just waiting for you two to cross things off of it before I start going through mine.
Let's see what else.
We already talked about the mechanical change, which is connected to a story event, which I always like. We already
Yes.
talked about that. That was the big thing for me, that you can't use the kiss command for Allison and Melody anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I do love the ability. Oh, here's a magic item that just summons your girlfriend for a couple seconds so you can kiss really quick. Like, that would be great. I'd love that, honestly, please. Yeah. I will also say regarding mechanical things, this isn't a big thing, but if you're around the same level as me, if you've gotten to Jody high enough level, she reaches what I think is like the skill she gets that's like the cool Jody thing, which is she has a move which is just the more star power she has, the more damage it does.
Yes, I love that move.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's
Yeah,
really good on her.
I was thinking earlier today about all the interesting ways they use star power and MP in this game, and I really like that. It costs MP to use, but its power is based on how much star power you have banked. So if Jody gets hit 5 times in a battle, you have full star power, you can just do a ton of damage with her.
And it's so tempting to be like, well, I have the powerhouse pin. I could give it to her and then just have her hoard star power constantly. But then I wouldn't have that on Melody, and I couldn't use Melody's busted ass star power abilities. It's it makes you really have to balance, like, with the items are so good, and you only have so much of each one that you're like, who's getting the good one?
I actually put the pin on Claire this week.
Ooh, I could see that
because-
being extremely useful.
Yes, so that I can use the multi-target spells at the beginning of battles. Also, I have a wand for her, which turns her normal attack into a scorch spell, which
is very good.
And builds
really
her star
good.
power when she uses it, which is great without using MP. I am convinced that this, just from several mechanical things I've seen throughout the game, I'm convinced the person who made this has played a Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Definitely.
I would be extremely surprised if Bobby hadn't played Dragon Quest.
I feel like it would be hard to make a Japanese style RPG this good without having played Dragon Quest.
Yes. You definitely don't get these sorts of ideas from a Final Fantasy. No shade to Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy
I love
is
Final
not about
Fantasy.
this.
Yes, exactly. I would agree. Something small I noticed during the beach scene, which I'm going to get more into the beach scene in a second, but I noticed in that scene when Melody gets angry and upset, her overworld sprite's eye changes to like where her she's looking angry there too, and I'm like, I have not noticed that before, and that's so fucking cool. Like, that's such a little detail, but I love it.
Speaking of little details, I noticed another behind the scenes of RPG Maker thing that they did that they do in this game. RPG Maker does not have a lighting engine. All of the lights that you do are all faked. So like you can do a mostly transparent picture with a half transparent like yellow circle, and you place that in your world over your light. It now looks like that has light. That's a common way to do it. So when you walk into caves and stuff like the Glitterstone Polychrome Cavern we were in earlier today, you have like a weird purple light. So when you enter there's an event that changes your overworld sprites to be your regular overworld sprite, but a little bit weird and purple, so that you have fake lighting on all of the people. And I noticed that that's how they did it, because if you save in the Polychrome Cavern, your party pictures all change to be a little bit purple, and so that's how they're doing it, which is masterful. Like I've played around in RPG Maker since I was in 7th grade, and it is very easy to make an RPG Maker game and really, really hard to do anything else. And they're putting in the work and making it happen, and bending this engine over its knee, which again, I don't think
just cannot get that phrase right. They're bending over backwards.
Bending over backwards.
That's the fucking phrase.
Yeah.
You could say they're breaking the engine. You could say they're bending over backwards to make it work.
Yeah,
no, I think bending the engine over their knee works. I get the picture you're painting.
Yeah, they're whatever. They're doing so much with the RPG Maker engine, and I love.
And you're doing so much
seeing
with this language.
So the best compliment that I've ever gotten, I was talking about something with this girl I knew in college, and she interrupts me halfway through and is like, "You speak funny," and I'm like, "Oh." She's like, "No. Like, I mean that in a good way. Like, nobody talks the way that you do." And
Oh, that's so good. That's very
yeah,
good.
I was like,
That's wonderful.
That's wonderful. And so I say things like bending this engine over its knee.
I believe in a previous episode you said
That
it
sounds so
breaks it over
sexual.
its own back
Yes.
or something like that, which really confused me.
Yeah.
Okay, but this beach scene though.
Oh, it's
Like,
so good.
I am a sucker for really good interpersonal drama, and specifically like being able to capture these kind of really difficult emotions and scenes well. And this, it's just so raw. It's so good.
And so there's the part that stuck out to me about that the beach scene is when she's like, "Allison, you fucking suck and I fucking hate you," and Allison is like, no, like stop it, like come here, I love you. And it seems like things are going to turn around, and she brings her in for a hug, and then she says something that's not quite good enough, and Melody doesn't react, but the circle that's been getting smaller and smaller every time she's felt smaller and smaller, that circle just contracts on that text box, and it's so good.
It's so good. I almost mentioned the dark circle encroaching into the scene in my recap, and I debated because I just wasn't sure how to describe it, because it's like, it feels like you could read it as like a spotlight on the scene, like we're narrowing our focus as the scene continues, or you can really look on it as more like, the way I look at it is, it feels like when you're so deep in your own head and like just the world is falling away and you're just in your emotions and nothing else. And it just it it's so good. It is just a scene of just like they're just talking past each other. Like neither of them are really saying what the other one thinks they're saying, but they're each hearing the worst thing. And like the line of like, "That's not what I need to hear right now," from Melody, it hits so hard, because like I have heard a partner say this to me, and I have absolutely said this to a partner. Audience, don't fucking say that. That is not helpful to anyone. Like, don't make someone feel bad because they're just trying to help you as best they can, and they're not saying the exact magic sequence of words you want from them. Oh, got it. Yeah, it's a very good, and I love the fact that after she leaves, Harmony, it's like, oh, Harmony's gonna dig it in more, and she doesn't do anything because she's just like, oh yeah, she's just fully having an attack. There's no dialogue that's gonna happen. Okay, I should go. My job is done.
It's so good.
Also, we haven't gotten a lot of her in this chunk, but I love Queen Verena. Design-wise, she looks incredible. She very much looks like she doesn't fit on this world. As it's been mentioned multiple times, she's the only human here. Like, the closest to humans they have is they have elves and orcs and shit here, but they don't have humans.
They have Human, Mr. Human, but that's in a part that we're covering next week. It was an optional part this week.
Yes. We so there's that aspect, but then also just like I feel like if Bernard was recapping this bit, I almost expect him when in her introduction to say something like, "And then she says a bunch of villain shit." But like, because she kind of does, but it's also like the mood. It feels like, what's going on, Lee? I don't know what you think is happening, but what's happening?
Yeah.
There's a real sense that like her understanding of what is happening and like the facts she's coming into the situation with aren't quite right. Like, her attitude is just a little off. And I just think she's delightful. Like, there's a bit in her like challenging them to you know, the big, oh, I'll give you 1 week and then you'll send your best fighters thing. And she's like, I'll see if you're all bark. You get it? Because you're animals. And it was just like, fair enough. It's a very bad joke, but I love it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
this chunk was really, really good. It continues to be a very well written game.
It does. Speaking of well written, I just want to point out, I mentioned in the recap, there was a bit where in the polychromic caverns or whatever the hell they're called, you can find a miner's hat, and it just leads to one of my. I'm not saying this is a good kind of humor or like this is good humor writing, but I do adore it when someone makes a really bad pun and someone else's response is just, "I'm going to kill you." Like
Yes.
that. Yes, that's good. Like I feel like as someone who loves to make puns, that's the kind of reaction I want. Like I
Mhm.
want to be threatened for my puns. And also just my last note is just I really love the interplay between the four main characters. Like whenever you
Mhm.
just like find a random thing in a scene and they all start talking, like their interplay is really good. And in a cast of 3 or 4 characters, reaching a point where you have a very solid dynamic where the characters will have good dialogue like that, that's
Mhm.
really important and something not everyone is always capable of. So
Also, when Jody is in the lead, you can go around to, for instance, Jody and Claire's house and investigate
yes,
things, and a lot of things will have new dialogue
yes,
because
because
Jody
Jody's in
is
the
doing
lead
the
now.
investigating.
Oh, it's so good.
There was one dialogue which was the same as before, but I enjoyed it. Just revisiting it, where you walk up to the bathroom door in Claire and Jody's house, and Claire says, "I don't think there's anything in the bathroom that's going to help us on our quest." And Allison says, "You'd be surprised." And Claire says, "Would I?" And Allison says, "No."
Yeah, Allison and Claire's dynamic specifically is like is just 100% the like the straight man, just complete deadpan person, and the person who's just like, how far can I push things? How much shit can I start? Yeah, I enjoyed this chunk. Like Sam, I played past this. I played all the way to full disclosure, listeners, originally this episode was supposed to be covering up until the bit where the game is just like, go do whatever you want and then get to the final boss eventually. I've misremembered how much stuff is between where we are here and there, so that's going to be put all together. But God, there's some good stuff there. I can't
Mhm.
wait for it. But we'll have to do that next week, I guess.
Yeah.
Next week, we prepare to fight God.
Attack and dethrone God.
Who
God,
whomst
God in
among
our.
us has not attacked and dethroned God at this point?
It's true. As a trans woman, I do it on the regular. Also, just it's great to know that God and our mentor were roommates.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
They were roommates.
Oh
They
my
were
God, they were
roommates.
roommates.
That
Cool.
about does it, I think.
Awesome. So yeah, that'll do it for the week. If you like what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations will help us cover the cost of running the show and making it better and better. Setting up a recurring monthly donation will also confer additional
Thank you.
benefits. I'd fixed it in my notes, but I couldn't remember if I'd fixed it in my notes and it was wrong or not, so I had to stop and think about it. So if you donate
Well, now you
$1,
know for next time.
yes. Adds in parentheses, this is the right word, don't say it wrong. If you donate $1 more a month, you can get access to our bonus feed as well as access to our polls and decide what game we play next on the main feed. This week in the bonus feed, we're going to be covering a JRPG canon episode on another RPG Maker game called Off, which is a very classic one that's in RPG Maker 2003, I believe, and it's super big in like indie RPG Maker game stuff. So super
Ooh,
excited.
it's a Belgian game.
Yeah.
Have we ever covered a Belgian game?
I don't know. I thought it was French because it's in French. So
Well, they speak French in Belgian.
obviously I haven't written the notes for it yet to see where everything came up. But yeah.
Okay.
yeah, that will be going up this week. So if you want to hear us talk about that, you can head on over and make a donation. If you donate $5 or more a month, we will also shout out your name on every episode, just like this. Shout outs to It's Claire Time, Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Floris, Kaldron, Freddie Rodriguez, AA Ron 524, JFro Prime, and Doho. And then finally, if you love us so much that you want to donate $20 or more a month, you also can make me say a sentence of your choosing just to plug something or to make me say something stupid. So shout outs to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout out to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, reviews for people like us by people like us. Shout outs to Vimk, who wants you to play Legend of Legaia, and they have a build your own book club for Legend of Legaia in the Discord right now. So come on over to the Discord and play Legend of Legaia with Vimk, and eventually maybe they'll change the sentence. And then shout out to Carr, who is a dentist, so he isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for languages of Belgium now.
And I'm Trish.
They also speak German there.
See, I thought they spoke German, so when you said they spoke French, I was like, weird, interesting.
Well, I knew they spoke French because a lot of Belgian stuff is in French, but I was like, I'm pretty sure they speak German too. Yeah, there's also a German, and they also speak Dutch there. It's just one of those countries where they speak a whole bunch of shit.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.